Can you save a project that went completely off the rails in the editing room almost 10 years later? Welcome to the Cutting Room Floor, the show where you get the behind the scenes stories from your favorite creators on their favorite projects. I'm Liam, and this week we're talking my first ever short film, 2017's Campless, and the 2025 reimagining of Campless, Final Exposure. Let's get right into it. Campless came out in 2017, February to be exact. I'd been on YouTube just over 6 months at that point. My first video was August 26th, or August 28th. And February 2017, Campless comes out. I had never made an edited is a big feature because I've made short films before this, but I've never edited a short film. Campless is my first ever edited and uploaded short film. To start us off with the big reveal, the Campless everyone saw, the one that you can actually look up on my channel and watch, was not the one I originally wrote. It wasn't even the rewrite. It was improvisation on the spot, due to so many issues happening at the absolute worst time. So let's get into the story. To really tell the story, we gotta go back to the start. I was in grade 9, a starry-eyed Liam, taking a class that really was a joke. It had an open-ended project, pretty much under the title of Become a Genius at Something. This wasn't meant to be literal, but it was a class where you were supposed to spend the time working towards a project we chose and documenting our process of doing that. So of course, the filmmaker in me was overjoyed at this opportunity. I could take this class time, to work on my first ever film. And I just started YouTube, so this was the perfect time. The original idea for Campless went like this. I actually found my notebook, which I used, and I'm a very physical media, or physical notebook person when it comes to writing ideas. I write stuff out a lot. And started back then, this was my notebook that I used all the time. And I had this for years. But for the audio listeners, I'm just showing the original imagery for Campless, the poster I made. This is the word for word from the book idea of Campless. 5 people go camping for a video. One goes missing. When looking, they are attacked by an unknown entity. Each goes missing until one left. Camera left behind. And then a general idea, abandoned camp. That was what I went off of for Campless. That was the base idea. Now, I also created a timeline of events. The story is very, very sparse. This is all I have from the original project. I no longer have access to the documents, the script, the storyboarding, all of that. I don't have access to that anymore. I lost that account. So we just have the physical media. But grade 9 Liam wrote, start a movie, hang out with Coles, which was Matthew, who is in the final product. Start filming again when Coles goes missing. Look for him with everyone. Find the summer camp. Enter the camp. Cameron goes missing. Continue looking for Coles. Oni twists her ankle. Find mattress house. Explore the stables. Walk back to Oni. Oni is missing. A clown chases us. Sarah separates. The camera drops, and that's the end of the movie. And that is pretty much the script. We had a cast, and if you guys are eagle-eyed viewers or listeners, you would have picked up that there is a very familiar name. That would be Cameron. Yes, the Cameron from the Sweetcast and many other videos on this channel. He indeed was going to be an actor in this project all the way back in grade 9. Now I have my cast list, which was Liam, Matthew, Sarah, Oni, Juliana, Cameron, and Oliver. Now you guys have seen Campless, you know that doesn't happen. None of this actually went to fruition. None of this ended up happening. Why didn't it happen? Yes, was I over my head thinking, wow, this is gonna be awesome? Absolutely. You see, Campless, the original idea for Campless, was inspired by a lot of things I was watching on YouTube at the time. Creepy exploration videos. And of course, I had seen the Blair Witch Project. And that got me into the idea of, I want to try something similar. I was a Boy Scout. I had this location picked out, an abandoned summer camp that my friends and I explored on this survival camping trip. We had walked off into the woods and stumbled upon this. And it was exactly what we were looking for. So we had fun then, but when I came back to start writing this film, that was what popped into my mind. Hence the name Campless. Now looking back, was the idea for this film wildly out of the realm of possibilities? Absolutely. Was it even out of the realm of possibilities for me now? Hey, maybe. We don't know unless I try it. But that's always how I've been. You write big, you write the story you want, and then you make it into what you can make. That's how I kind of make films. That's how I approach things. So yes, was this idea from more than just the book, the actual script, the planning, was that above what I could do? Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. This was a slasher film. A monster slasher film. There were traps, there was special cuts, there was effects that realistically I had no idea how to make, and I was completely unprepared to do. But that didn't matter. I had an idea, I was ready to roll with it. So, put myself in that mindset again. I had my film idea, I had the pieces of a script started, I had a location chosen. The next steps, the most important steps, was recruiting the cast. I've already read the cast list for you guys. But I had to recruit the cast, which as a middle schooler is a lot harder than you expected. But of course, looking back, I'm not surprised in the slightest. I'm actually surprised I did find the people I did. I mean, we're middle schoolers. The idea of being in a short film is cool, but is it actually going to happen? That's the question. But luckily, I mean, as you guys saw on the list, I was able to recruit Sarah, Oni, Oliver, and Matthew. Cameron didn't end up coming through with it. It just didn't work out with his schedule. So he was no longer on the cast list. But I had Sarah, Oni, Oliver, Matthew, and then myself. I had everything together. We had done all this work. Everyone was ready to show up at my house on the day of the filming. Were we on time? No, we were running behind. Because of course we're running behind. This is a short film. This is my first time doing it. But we're all at my house and we depart on our drive to filming. Now, a key aspect of the shoot, the location is about 3 hours away, and I planned to do an overnight shoot. What I didn't plan on was that when my friends had agreed to do this film, they had neglected to actually accept that it was indeed going to be an overnight trip, that it wasn't just going to be an evening or an afternoon. And not only did they neglect to accept that, they neglected to tell their parents that, which meant that a decent bit into our drive, not even an hour, but a decent bit into the drive, while discussing this and going over everything, that's when the reveal hit. Oni and Sarah had not told their parents that it was going to be an overnight trip, and they definitely wouldn't be okay with just having that bomb dropped on them. So that meant we had to turn around, drive both of them home, which meant that not only was I down 2 actors, but I was down a significant part of the day. Again, context clues, I was very focused on this. This was a fun project for me, but it was also my first foray into filmmaking and making this project. It was a bigger step up from just making YouTube videos in my room or with a couple of friends or the low intensity stuff. This was not only my first short film, but this was for a grade. This was a school project. Should I have picked up on the fact that no one showed up with stuff to go overnight? Absolutely. But did I? No, because I didn't even pack that stuff. I didn't bring overnight stuff. But at this point, we're well into the day. I'm down 2 actors. And since this summer camp is almost a 3-hour drive away, it's February. The days aren't that long. So I'm hooped. I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to make it there. But there's no time to reschedule it. I'm on a deadline. There's no way to reschedule it. Their parents aren't going to be okay with this turning into an overnight trip. It's just not going to work. This is a day that I've organized and I've planned for months. I've been working towards this day for a while, and I don't want to just let it up. So we have to go in a completely different direction. It was too late to get to the summer camp, but we could change our plans, which is what we did. We changed to go to our trailer at the lake, because that was only just over an hour away. Very possible to get there, do a little blocking, and then from that point, film. I also recruited my sister Kirsty, who came along for the shoot because I needed another actor. At this point, it was just Oliver and Matthew plus me, but I'm behind the camera. I'm not a member of the cast directly. I'm the camera. I'm the audience. So we needed a third person because it wasn't enough to just have the 3 of us total. We needed a 4th. So we're all together. We're ready to go. We're set. We're driving out to the lake. But Campless doesn't work. The original idea for the film, it heavily, not even heavily, it entirely relies on the fact that we're going to be at the summer camp. The set pieces, the moments. It needs a bigger cast. I wrote this with Cameron in mind, so this wasn't even adjusted to not have Cameron. But nevertheless, we have to keep making, we have to trek forward. We're too deep in to just give up and me get there and go, I don't have anything planned. So I'm spending this drive trying to adjust the original Campless, the storyline I wrote, to our new destination with these new characters, which was not working in the slightest. It was an hour and bit drive, and I got absolutely nowhere with trying to adjust the schedule, adjust the storyline, and what I'd originally come up with to this new project, this new location. Everything had changed in this project, and at this point I realized the story had to change, the script had to change. This wasn't happening. Not only that, there was an integral scene of a jump scare kind of bit, with a swinging board coming down with knives attached to it, and that was tasked to Matthew Coles because he was helping me develop this film. He did not bring the prop. And so as we're on the drive, I'm like, this doesn't work. That's the big set piece. That's the moment. That was the big film moment. It was a whole scene, and it wasn't gonna work. And at this point, Campless is not Campless. I can't make Campless. So the original film, the original idea, is scrapped. It's no longer the film I'm making. Instead, I came up with a basic idea of a trek through the woods. Still that basic idea of being picked off one by one by this entity until the final person's there and the film ends. But this isn't an abandoned camp anymore. There's no buildings for us to explore, and there's not that set piece. So we get to camp, and instead of me going to the trailer to get warmed up and hang out, I get out at the entrance and I start plotting a little direction, a little path. I go down, I walk out, I'm like, okay, what can we use? What can we do? What can we use? And I'm thinking of little pieces that we're going to take, little places we're going to film at. And I get to the end and I'm like, okay, I have a sort of idea figured out. I get picked up, we go back, and I get it ready again. I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're photographers. We're out here taking pictures, and it's loose in my head, but we're photographers, we're taking pictures, and we follow the same thing. Matthew, you go missing, we go looking for you, and we get picked off one by one until I'm the last one left. The camera drops, and the movie ends. That's the film. And we're all on board. He's into it. Everyone's into it. We're like, this is great. This shouldn't take too long. We go out, we get dropped off, and we start filming. And that's what you guys see. We start filming. We improvise because I don't have a script anymore. So this part, we've come to the actual making of Campless. It's going to be a movie where a group of photographers, us, are picked off one by one by a monster until only Matthew and me are left alive. The filming of this consists of us spending nearly an hour, more than an hour actually, outside in sub-zero temperatures because it's February. It's the middle of February. And it's in the evening, so it's cold, really cold. I mean, if you guys have seen the film, you know it's really cold. I don't stop saying it. I constantly am saying it. And we're out there poorly acting out that we are being hunted. I mean, looking back, it's not believable at all. But this was my first time actually having to direct other people, and it definitely shows. I know what I was going for, and looking at some of the takes, I can see grasps of what I was going for, what I'm looking for. But the biggest issue wasn't an inexperienced director who didn't know how to communicate with his actors to get what he wanted. I was not anywhere near where I am now. I have a vision. I know how to articulate it and get what I need from my actors, from the people I'm working with. But back then, I was fresh, insanely fresh. This was my first time actually being put in that position where I was in charge of them. And it shows. It easily shows. If you've seen Campless, you can tell. A big part are those key moments. You know, the poor justification of Matthew just up and disappearing, Oliver falling to his death from this high place that was meant to be this camera trick to make it look like a bigger drop than it was. Or Kirsty going to the bottom of this hill and dying. Again, all of these things, they're just... The execution of these ideas are just not there. The ideas, they work. They absolutely work, okay? But when you come to actually execution, there's not the skill. They're not actors. They're people doing me a favor and helping me out. So it wasn't for lack of trying, but I want to emphasize that this film was very much being made in the moment. It was improvised. We would get to a part of the film like, oh, Oliver's character needs to die. We need to lose somebody. We need something to happen in the film. So we figured out the moment, which leads to the moments in the final film of him jumping off this container into like a foot drop below him and then cutting so that we don't see him there. And if we got lost, which we did, we just rolled with it because on top of there being no script, it was so cold that no one wanted to try and do another take or experiment with a scene and try it in different ways until it felt right. And that definitely lends to the fact that you can tell I'm an inexperienced director. I'm really cold, and that's very clearly impacting my ability and my effort into getting what I'm wanting from the film. So we did it once, then we move on unless there was some glaring mistake, or if it really felt bad, we would go for it. And you guys have seen what ends up in the final thing. It had been really bad for us to reshoot, and we didn't do a lot of reshoots. For most scenes, there's maybe one other take. There's never 3, 4, 5. Nothing like I would do now. Now I take multiple takes. I've learned from then. But again, this is grade 9. I'm inexperienced. I have no experience. But we finally wrap the filming. We jump over the fence, right where that movie ends. We got lost, but we kind of made our way back to where we originally were going to end the film. Called my dad to come pick us up. We get warmed up at the trailer because it's cold. We're cold. And we have some hot dogs. All head home that evening. It's dark, but we head home. Now comes the hard part. The edit. It's time for me to edit the materials. If you're an editor, you've unfortunately probably heard the term, we can fix it in post. I was so inexperienced at the time, I didn't understand why that wasn't something you said. Because I, the entire time, was going, I don't know how I feel about this, but I can fix it in post. I don't know if I love where we're going with this, but I can fix it in post. Fixing it in post doesn't work. If you don't get what you want the first time, you don't get to fix it in post. I've come a long way since this time, both as an editor, but also as a viewer myself. Because back in 2017, I was very fresh and still just barely getting used to not cringing when I hear myself talk on camera. And not like now, I can talk on camera and I can listen to myself for hours. But back then, a 5-minute video and I was, I need a break. So this mountain of footage, I think we have a total of 40 minutes of footage straight through. Probably 35. I didn't cut much. But since we had mostly completely improvised, there was no script to go off of for editing. We hadn't even followed the initial basic story I had set out. We very much improvised and gone with what we felt. So it was up to me to decide what should be kept and what should be cut. And of course, the issue of most of these scenes only having 1 or 2 takes being filmed and having them be barely different because, of course, they're improvised, so it's not the same take of the same lines. It's different lines every time. That severely limits my ability to do anything if I didn't like how the scene had gone. It was pretty much choose which scene was better, but then I have to go back sometimes and adjust because this scene actually fits better than this follow-up scene. This is why whenever the monster does anything in the film, attacks, shows up, there's this significant glitching in camera distortion. Because I realized this doesn't look good. You can tell that Kirsty's just lying at the bottom, or you can tell that Joseph is just doing he hops off. It's not like a jump or anything dramatic. He hops off of that little step where he is. So I put in glitching, I put in camera distortion, And that fixes it a little bit. It works for the purpose. It works for what I needed. This was to, cover up the parts I was not happy with. And those big moments, that's when I was like, I really wish we'd redone it. I really wish we'd done another try. But nevertheless, I edited together the entire short film, and I made a short trailer from it. And did I cut much? No, it's 27 minutes long. It's very bloated. It's my longest short film, and you can feel it when you watch it. But finally, we get to the screening in the classroom. Because remember, this was a school project. It was a daunting experience. Because remember, I can barely watch my own work. So the idea of not only showing it to people, but sitting in the room while they watched it, that, that's safe to say I was not looking forward to the class time. It wasn't the film I intended to make. It wasn't even the improvised idea. It was completely different. It was something completely different. And the people that were no longer able to film with me, they were in this class, so they were going to watch the film with the rest of the class. They were going to sit there with everybody. But I have to say, this was a really important day, and honestly, the day that made it so I can actually watch myself. It was what gave me those tools. And I have to give a massive shout out to my friends Matthew and Shy. You guys have seen them on the channel a ton of times. Matthew more than Shy, but still both of them on the channel a lot. They're big friends of the channel. They helped get over that internal cringing I did whenever I watched my own work. So rather than sitting there and watching the film and seriously watching it, because I'd watched it a bunch by that time, we sat in the back of the room. We made fun of it. We made a comedy version of the film. It was a parody. It didn't even relate. It was as close to the original Campless idea as the actual film was. But it was funny, and it was really enjoyable, and it was something we were like, oh, we're gonna make this. Unfortunately, that film, we never made it. Although, I'd be down to do it, so hint, hint, wink, wink. Comment down below if you guys want to see the comedy parody of Campless, and I'll get Shine Matthew on board to make it. Wink, wink. But overall, people were generally very positive with their feedback, because the harshest critic, myself. Okay? People appreciated it. Because as bad as I thought it was, most of the people in my class, they don't even know how to make a film. They never attempted it. So they could respect me on that basis alone, that we respect the effort you put in. Nevertheless, releasing it on YouTube meant more people were willing to give their honest opinions. And I got a couple of hate comments. They weren't even hate comments. Granted, at that time, I mean, come on, I barely been on YouTube, so barely had any comments. And with that, I barely had any experience with negative comments. So while these weren't expressly hate comments, the negativity in them, they stung, and it stuck with me. And it really punctuated that film. It like highlighted the fact, this internal thought I had, that the film isn't good. And that's an opinion I've held since uploading it all the way back in 2017. It's been a major piece of embarrassment for me. My entire time on YouTube, it's always been the benchmark I hold things to of, man, this isn't great, but, at least it's not Campless. And, that's not something you want to think. You want to be able to look back with pride, or at least enjoyment at your first creation. And I couldn't. I haven't been able to. Campless has been that sore spot. It's been this tarnished memory that I wished I could get rid of. I've thought many times over the years as I was reevaluating my content and as I was getting my content together and really like figuring out what I was going to do and what I wanted to do with my place on YouTube. I would be lying if I said there wasn't that big voice in my head that's like, Campless is tarnishing your legacy. It's bringing you down. Unlist it. Delete it. But it was something I couldn't bring myself to, because as much as I hate Campless, it's still my first short film, and it's still something that I recognize and I appreciate in some parts. Now, let's bring the story to modern day. Well, not modern day, but March 2025. While going through my many SD cards looking for some footage I had misplaced, because I have a massive collection of SD cards, I stumbled upon the original SD card that I had filmed Campless on. Somehow, in the 9 years since Campless, I had never cleared the card. And I realized this was my opportunity to fix my opinion on Campless. Because I'd always said the footage is terrible, but the editing doesn't help. So maybe this was my opportunity to give the footage a real chance using my skills and the ideas that I had acquired throughout the years. But as soon as I started, I just wasn't sure what to do next. The image of this is what Campless is, and how do I save the footage? So I'd have the project sitting there, I'd look at it a little bit, try it, pull some clips out, start looking through the clips, get brought back and push it. Find another project, do that instead, push it. And I'd push it. Occasionally I'd open it, look at it, try something about it. The biggest thing was I look in the footage. And I'd go and I'm like, maybe I can't actually save it. Maybe I've had these rose tinted glasses towards the footage and it was my skill at the day that really held me back. I can save the footage. But come December, I decide I actually want to sit down and tackle the Campless reimagining. I knew I couldn't do anything to fix the footage. It was filmed 2017. There's no going back and redoing it. And if I remake it now, it's not the same film. It's going to be completely different. But what I can do, I can help add to this non-existent narrative. I can make it a real found footage. You add those text blurbs that fill in the gaps and make it all work. But still, I'm cutting the film and editing it as if it's a found footage being released in hopes of generating these leads in a cold case. But where do I go with that? What is this narrative I'm trying to install? And I'm stuck. I'm still stuck. Okay, Campless is still this beast that is staring me down. It's this idea of this is your first actual short film you tried to make, and it's still something that you just can't do. You can't beat it. You can't make yourself proud of it. So looking through the footage and really giving myself some ideas, I realized the original cut very loosely insinuates that there's some kind of monster in the woods, hunting them off one by one. You never see anything, it's just mentioned. So if I cut any explicit mention of a monster, I can instead reshape the footage to work with a different narrative. Remember, this original idea was very heavily inspired by the Blair Witch Project. So in this new film, it's going to be inspired by it again, but in the different takes. See, originally when I was inspired, I was like, found footage, monster that you don't ever see, but you see what happens from it. But now I'm like, there's also that theory about the storyline that there's no creature, it's the guys attacking her. It's a human monster in the film, and that's when I clued in. I was like, I can do that. The friends are, again, photographers out taking pictures. I can't change it, but this time they're being picked off one by one by a person, a member of their own group. This change-up was inspired by the Blair Witch, but it was really inspired and really set in motion by one of the takes I had looking through the ending, because the ending is one of the things that we actually filmed multiple takes for. And of course, a couple of them were jokes. It ends with me going and putting the camera down, getting attacked right at that fence line where Matthew is on the other side. But there's a couple takes where I give Matthew the camera. The final take that makes it into it, it's my only glimpse of me as a character because I cut myself as a character. Going through, I realized I want to leave this footage open. I want to leave this story open to revisit. I've made this film, but maybe I could save it one day. Come back and do a sequel. And I went, I want to be in that sequel. So if I cut myself from this, hopefully I change my voice enough. Or we can insinuate that I don't actually die. I come back as the cameraman, but if you cut me for most of it, we're cool. And I'm only glimpsed at the very end of the film. You don't see my face otherwise. So, going through the footage, I'm looking at the endings and I see one of the takes. And in this take, I'm attacked and Matthew's filming it for a brief moment. You can see Oliver behind me. He's the one attacking me. And at first I'm like, oh, well, that's a ruined take. I can't use that. You see Oliver, and then I was like, wait, hold on a minute. Oliver is attacking me, and you see him attacking me. You don't see this monster. Oliver's the first of the group to die. What if? And that's when it all starts rolling and sliding into place in a really surprising way. That's when it's set in stone that, hey, maybe I can I can paint the film of it's this group of characters being picked off one by one by a member of the group. Oliver is the one doing this. He's the one that's attacking us all. Again, there's not much I can do to explain Matthew just disappearing up and going away. That doesn't work. But Oliver, his basic jump where he just disappears, that's not going to kill him. But if he's the bad guy, it makes more sense why he just he chooses to jump off and he's disappearing. It's because he doesn't want to be with us anymore. He's picking us off. It makes it easier this way. Kirsty going to the bottom, and we are implied that she dies down there because my character is chased away because of these noises. Well, if you put it in this context, Oliver is the one making the noises, and you can kind of hear him. And so Oliver makes these noises, and he scares Liam away. And Liam's over there, and while he's over there, hey, who's to say Oliver doesn't go down and kill Kirsty? Or who's to say he doesn't chase Liam away because he knows that Kirsty's not going to be able to get it back up. She's going to die of exposure. It leaves it open, but it leaves it in the right place. Oliver is now fitting into and the pieces are falling together. It surprised me when I was editing, and I'm like, wow, it's actually working. It works having Oliver as the villain, as the monster in the film. You can still have the implied thing because that's what they're expecting. It's a monster. They're expecting Oliver to be the villain, and so you have all these pieces that fit, and you're like watching. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm picking up some pieces, and then you end, and I end in a very specific way. I make sure that it's very clear. It's that frame, and it's a frozen frame of Oliver's face. He hates that it's a zoom up. I don't even think he knows. But it's Oliver's face, zoomed in, that freeze frame right at the very end, where you see he's the one doing it. Then it fades into the text, where this is all the footage that was recovered. It's heavily implied that Oliver is the one that committed these crimes. He's the one that's responsible for the group's disappearance. If you know any information, please let us know. And that's how it ends. But now it's work. It's not working. This through line is actually there. You set it up as this group of friends went out, they disappeared, it's being released for answers. You have this through line of Oliver's acting kind of weird. He's kind of the weird guy in the group. Matthew disappears, and it's a bump. But then Oliver's lackluster disappearance, Kirsty being down there and Liam being chased away, and you get to the point where you're like, hey, this works. Now Oliver is, it seems, the intended story all along. This film is very similar in a lot of ways. Final Exposure isn't that different. I cut over 12 minutes of footage, which might be impressive, but I just had to tighten things up. It drags a lot because it's improvised, and it's a distance. I filmed most of the distance, so you got to cut certain pieces. Originally, this plan was to just be Campless, director's cut. However, looking at the final project, I don't feel like it's the same thing. I don't feel like it's a director's cut of Campless. It's kind of become its own thing. It's a separate story. It is not the original Campless. Even though you can take the story and imply it on the Campless, originally it's one thing. This is a completely different beast. So that's why I called it Final Exposure. And I will admit, it took me far too long to come up with the name Final Exposure. And if you guys have seen it, yes, I did come up with that after I uploaded it to YouTube and did the whole finish. But Final Exposure, why? Very basic. If you guys know anything about cameras, exposure elements, final, death, it works. It's a, I'm gonna say it wrong. It's double entendre, but I don't think that's the right word. But you guys know what I mean. It's been out a couple weeks now, and I'm really happy with it. Is it the best film ever? No. But I achieved my goal. I changed the way that I feel about Campless. I can now look back on the original and be like, yeah, it was an effort. It was what he tried to do. But I redeemed the footage. I gave it new life. I gave it a proper narrative. So yeah, Campless, I can look back on fondly now. I can look back on these stories, and I can sit there and I go, yeah, was it the best process? No. But I learned a lot. It taught me a lot about myself as a filmmaker, a lot as a creator, and a lot as an enjoyer myself. It taught me to take inspiration from my own stuff. We wrote a comedy, we came up with a comedy parody while watching the film, inspired by the film I made. And that was a big skill that I even use to today. One of my biggest inspirations for my projects, my previous projects, I'll watch my own videos. It's terrible, and I hate saying it, but I love watching my own videos because I love what I do. I love the projects. I love the choices I make, the edits, the story, all of it. And those act as inspiration so that I can take that into the next project I work on. And Campless, while it isn't this golden child, this forever loved first film, it's no longer this embarrassment or this sore spot for me. It's been transformed into a respectable piece of work where I can look back and say, yeah, I was an experience, but look at me now. I have a direct, this is how I was then, this is how I am now. You can look at Campless and Final Exposure side by side and see the different choices in just the editing choices and the editing skills. So, can you redeem it 10 years later? Yeah. You can't fix everything in post, but I think if you have a decent footage, yeah, you can definitely fix it in post and improve it I won't say fix it in post. I can improve it in post. Okay? Because in all honesty, the footage in the improv, it's not horrific. Is it good by any means? No, I wouldn't say that. But it's not as bad as I always tell myself it is. Well, that's the end of the first episode of the Cutting Room Floor. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Do you prefer Campless or Final Exposure? I'd actually love to know what you guys think. If you guys haven't seen them, they're both going to be linked in this video and in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe below if you haven't, and drop a like if you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what project you want me to talk about next, and let me know what guest you would love to have on the podcast / show. This is a podcast. It's a show for the visuals, but you guys can also find it on any podcast sites. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think that's the only two we have it on right now. And of course, this is an in development show. This is not a we're done, we're moving, like we're perfect, we're gonna move on from this forever. Things are gonna change, things are gonna improve. I'd love to know in the comments any ideas you guys have of changes I can make to make this more entertaining, make this go smoother, or any things you'd like me to do. If you want me to delve more into some behind the scenes production stuff, more into the inspirations and what I took from these inspirations. Campless, it's one thing. From a lot of my other projects, especially when we get to the Cult of Mara time and Living Myself, those series where there's gonna be multiple parts dedicated to them, those I really have a lot of inspirations and a lot of places I can talk on because I'd been a creator and I'd been in the space a lot longer. So when we get to those parts, we're gonna get that. But let me know in the comments, what do you want me to do to improve? What can I do to improve? And as always, I love you guys to death. Do not forget to stay sweet. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another episode of The Cutting Room Floor very soon.